G'day, Ziggy D here, and today I want to give you guys a guide to allocating your Paragon points on the Demon Hunter class specifically. Now this is probably one of the most asked questions on my stream. How do I allocate my Paragon points? Why do I allocate them like that? How should I allocate them? Things like that. And now that I've reached Paragon 200 as well, I start to have a significant amount of points to play around with. It actually makes a pretty big difference in my build. And anything beyond that, it's going to make a bigger and bigger difference kind of in the way you build your character. So the Paragon system is really cool, and it allows a lot of flexibility over how you build your character. And after having played Demon Hunter since, Reaper of Souls launch, I've sort of come to value the different Paragon points expenditure methods a little bit differently. And it also, it all depends on your build a lot of the time. So if you're playing like a very different build to what is considered to be standard for Demon Hunters now, then this may not apply. You'll have to take some of this stuff with a grain of salt. But otherwise, I'm going to be talking about any sort of Demon Hunter spec that revolves around like the cluster arrow combination, either with Entangling Shot or the non-hatred spender sort of specs that I'm doing now. Burst Demon Hunter specs, essentially, which is what most people are playing at this point. So, let's jump straight into it. We'll open up our Paragon points here, and we'll start off just with the core stats. Now, the first thing you should always focus on is getting your move speed to 25%. So the first thing to do is to simply, let's reset this, and simply to look at your current move speed total. So this will be from boots, and if you have any other items with move speed, like my Cloak of the God Wolf has 10% on them, I have 11% on my boots. That means I'm 21%. Now the cap from Paragon points plus gear is 25%. Now, people like this idea of when you get to 200, you can max out move speed just on Paragon points alone. And then you basically trade your move speed for like a main stat or something like that. However, I actually don't like that. While a extra main stat is pretty useful, or getting like some extra armor or regen or something is useful, I actually think one of the other options in the core stat is maximum hatred. And you can't get that on your boots or your cloak, or, move speed braces or anything like that. That's only in your Paragon points. So I really like getting move speed on your gear and then just filling the rest out with Paragon points. And the reason you want to fill this out is move speed directly relates to your clear speed. When you're farming rifts, when you're jumping around to different bounties, pretty much everything in the game will be, done more efficiently and done faster if you have maxed out move speed. So get that to 25%. I need 4%, so it's pretty simple stuff. I just chuck 4% right in there and I'm good to go. As you'll check that out now, I'm 25%, and that's the cap. That's the hard cap for gear plus Paragon, so there's no point putting any more points in there. Now, maximum hatred, I think, is the number 2 thing to spend on. Once you've maxed out your move speed, you want to dump it all into maximum hatred. These burst builds are all about dumping your hatred as quickly as possible, but there are some other pretty nice synergies here. Now, spending the rest of my 42 points currently, I actually get 21 extra hatred. Now, 21 over 150 brings us up to 171. It's actually pretty significant. That's actually, close to another cluster arrow, especially when you factor in my resource cost reduction. So that's a pretty big deal. Then when you start to add in things to the mix like Reaper's Wraps, which health globes restore 28% of your primary resource, this scales off your maximum resource. So getting more maximum hatred makes Reaper's Wraps even more effective than they are. Now, these guys can be easily crafted as well now. If you haven't crafted them, I highly recommend checking out my crafting video for these and crafting them. They are a best in slot item for Demon Hunter, hands down, and this is one of the reasons why that you have this excellent synergy here. So basically, I get to use more cluster arrows now, and then, I get one extra cluster arrow maybe whenever I'm starting, and whenever I pick up health globes, I'm getting more hatred, per health globe. So very efficient stat to spend it in. After that, you just want to, if you have a lot of extra Paragon points, but, I'm going to be maxing out hatred first. That's the first thing I'm going to be going for, getting that to 25. And after that, dexterity or vitality, basically whichever you prefer. That's a pretty obvious one. Like if you want more damage, go dexterity. If you're having a bit of trouble staying alive, or if you have a lot of percentage life on your gear, then you probably want to get vitality. So next up, we have the offensive tab. Now, I think pretty much hands down you should be going crit chance or crit damage on most Demon Hunter specs. There's some cooldown, builds on Demon Hunter that cooldown reduction is pretty helpful on, but, this sort of build I'm running now and most builds that I see on Demon Hunters now don't have all that much in terms of cooldown. I've got Vengeance and I've got Wolf Companion, not a big deal. Cooldown reduction is only a marginal gain there, whereas crit hit chance and crit hit damage scale your base damage by a lot. Now, the simple sort of way to look at this is just pick whichever gives you more sheet DPS. So with maxed out crit damage, I have 710k sheet DPS. Now if I reset this and then apply it all to crit chance, so we get 5% crit chance, I have 715. It might have actually changed. There you go. I haven't checked it in a little while. 715k, 284. Reset. Test again. Oh! Oh, I get more with crit chance now. There you go. So that's why you got to check this as you shift your gear around. I recently made some gearing changes, and I'm guessing my crit chance had gotten a little bit low while my crit damage had gotten a bit high. As you can see, 500% crit damage just here, while only 41% crit chance. So getting more crit chance is probably going to help me more. So in that case, I want to balance that out by getting more crit chance. I'm glad I tested this. So that's going to give me more damage overall, and you just go for the one that gives you more damage. Now, the only other consideration to make in here is if you are using Night Stalker or anything else that procs off crits, but Night Stalker is the main one, having higher crit chance, even though you may lose a little bit of DPS, may be more marginal gain for you because you're getting more discipline back. Now, I don't really have too much trouble sustaining my amount of discipline, sustaining my discipline with only 40% crit chance, but since this is giving me more DPS anyway, I'm obviously going to go for crit chance. So just go for whichever gives you more DPS, and then maybe weight crit chance just a little bit higher if you're using Night Stalker. Now after that, I would go for cooldown reduction after that. I honestly don't think attack speed is very useful in most burst Demon Hunter specs. You have enough attack speed to, use everything effectively, to kite effectively, just using 2 one-handers, even using a one-hander and a quiver, or a two-hander and a quiver, unless you're using two-handed crossbow maybe. Attack speed, I think, just inflates your sheet DPS without actually giving you much more effective damage. We're mostly focusing on that burst. Attack speed doesn't help that much with it, although it'll give you a nice, nice big tooltip DPS. I don't think it's that useful. I'd probably wait cooldown reduction after that. But that said, I've got my crit chance now. If I get any more points, I'm simply going to spend it on crit hit damage. There's 100 points here I can spend before I need to worry about cooldown reduction or attack speed. So focus on these two. Pretty basic stuff. Next up, we have defense. Now, I think point for point, all resist is the best out of all of these, especially on a Demon Hunter. If you're on a wizard or something like that, resist all is not that great because you already have a lot of intelligence. If you're on a witch doctor, and if you're on a barbarian and you have a lot of armor from your strength, or if you're on a crusader, you have a lot of armor from your strength, armor's going to be better. I think for the Demon Hunter, all resist is very good. It'll help you mitigate those hits very well, and it seems to give the biggest marginal increase in toughness. Now, you can do a similar method with just this. We test out toughness. 6.9 million. I haven't tested this in a while, so we'll see if it changes around. Maxing out my armor takes me to 6.1, so that's 800k toughness loss. You can see all resist is much more effective there, and percent life can be quite good. So that's only 6.2, so that's a little bit better than armor, but all resist hands down is far, far better. Now, the reason I also think this is a lot better now in Reaper of Souls is because you get a lot of secondary resistances. Now look at my Deathwatch Mantle here, fire resist. We look at this one, fire resist. What's another item I have here? Arcane resist, poison resist on my secondaries. Whenever you get one of these, you can't get all resist on that item. That means it's actually pretty hard to come by all resist. Now, most items I find have a secondary resist, and it's very difficult to actually get all resist on those items. Now, I make up for this by using some all resist gems. I recommend you do that as well, just as a little side note. But it means that getting those all resist and the Paragon points is one of your best way to get that additional all resist and to bring it up to a suitable level. Even like looking at like fizz resist for the moment, because I don't have any fizz resist secondaries, it's pretty low. So that Paragon is very, very important there and helps out a lot. Now after that, you just really want a mixture of life and armor. If you've got a lot of vitality on your gear, life's going to be better, and you saw life was better for me, and then armor will be better after that. So I'd go resist, life, armor on most Demon Hunters, but of course this sort of thing depends on your gearing situation. If you have like 5 pieces of gear with extra armor on it, like my Deathwatch Mantle here for example, then percent armor might actually be a really good thing for you. But overall, I think you're probably going to be safe going for all resist if you're unsure. Now life regen, I don't value very much on Demon Hunters. You're probably incidentally going to get a little bit on your gear, and as a Demon Hunter, especially playing a bursty spec like this, especially if you're using a helmet like Pride's Fall that has resource cost reduction if you don't get hit, Demon Hunters, are all about not getting hit very often. When you do get hit, you take a fair bit of damage, but there's enough time between you get hit again where you can either use a potion, or your small amount of regen and life getting hit you just have incidentally will heal you up, or your Templar follow will heal you up, or something like that will heal you up. I've even got like Bulkathos Wedding Band that heals me up as well. It's not hard to heal the Demon Hunter if you're not playing a sustained sort of build. Of course, if you're playing a sustained sort of build, a Grenader spec where you're in close, life regen's going to be good. But for anything like, a burst build where you're trying not to get hit most of the time, and you have high dodge chance, I even use awareness to give myself 100% dodge chance a lot of the time, then regen's really not that helpful. So all resist probably hands down the best one there. Now, I like to put this one in an order here. Resource cost reduction being number 1. We're playing a bursty spec, 10% reduced resource cost allows us to, potentially get an extra cluster arrow out or 2, and you can actually test that simply by firing all of your cluster arrows, then changing your paragons, and then testing it again. See if that gives you any difference. But that's not the only thing. If you're using like what I'm using here, preparation punishment, this is supposed to cost 25 discipline. Now let's use our hatred just here. So I'll expend all of this. Now my discipline is 63. It should cost 25. Nowhere near 25. It cost me like 14 or something like that, 14 or 15. A huge amount of it's much more efficient basically. So preparation punishment converts 25 discipline into 75 hatred. Now, if you have a resource cost reduction, the discipline cost goes down and down and down and down. That means you're going to get more hatred overall. So basically, I can sustain for a very long time through resource cost reduction. You see that it costs very little discipline. I can keep going. I can keep going. The longer you can do this, the more damage you're going to have, and the more you're going to be able to spec your character without using a hatred generator. You can eventually get to a breakpoint where you don't need a hatred generator, and that's what I am at in my build. So the Paragon point resource cost reduction is very, very nice to get. Now, the one I rate second is area damage. Area damage is actually quite good. I don't think it's as good as resource cost reduction in that real direct damage and efficiency in your build you get from that, but area damage is an easy second. It's probably a close second. Now, area damage works really well in Reaper Cells. I think people don't sort of get the full grasp of how it works. 1/5 of the time you deal the amount of area damage that you have based on the initial hit. So if I crit for 20 million with Cluster Arrow and I have 50% area damage, 1/5 of the time I'll deal 10 million damage to all enemies within a 10-yard radius. Now that actually has a chance of chaining as well. So one of those enemies could get hit by 10 million by area damage, and 1/5 of the time that area damage could again proc area damage, which would deal 5 million damage in an area 10 yards again. And that can chain again until you get to no damage, or until it eventually fizzles out, because RNG is going to RNG, and you can't 20% chance for it to proc isn't going to chain that long most of the time, but it can chain. It can increase your damage a lot, and increasing your damage in sort of against packs and things like that, especially if you're using something that's very high damage but small AoE, like Cluster Arrow Load of a Bear, which is a lot of people are doing. Small AoE, very high damage. Splash damage will help you really clear out those packs a lot more quickly. So the area damage is actually quite good. I don't rate it above resource cost reduction, but it will improve your clear speed quite a lot. And if you happen to incidentally get some of your gear as well, in addition to this, if you eventually get it to something like 100%, Paragon plus gear, then you're dealing, whenever you get that 20 million crit, you're going to deal 20 million to all enemies in a 10-yard radius in addition to that. So it's quite nice. After that comes life gain on hit, and then gold fine. Same reason life gain on hit I don't rate very highly as regen. We're not playing sustained sort of builds with most Demon Hunter specs, but if you are, then you may want to wait a little bit more highly. So that pretty much covers it. If you guys have any questions about maybe you have a specific Demon Hunter build you're playing and you want to know about what sort of Paragon points you should allocate, then feel free to hit me up in the comments below. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm Ziggy D, and thanks for watching.